Hello, this is a video about the Canon R6 Mark II from the perspective of a wedding photographer and videographer. Specifically a photographer and videographer that has not upgraded their gear in a very long time. Now, I've been weighing the pros and cons of switching completely over to Canon over the past few months because if you saw my What's in My Bag video that I posted earlier this year, you know that I was initially going to hold out to get a Sony a7S III because I had an a7S II, and that was just like going to be my next upgrade. But since then, I've had to take a step back and think about what is the best option for me, not just as a videographer, but also as a photographer. My thought process earlier this year was I have been shooting stills on Canon and video on Sony since 2017, and I thought that that was just how I was going to continue to do things for the foreseeable future. And it took me a long time to realize just how dumb of a decision that was. For a number of reasons. I did not have any Sony lenses. I only invested in Canon glass, which restricted me from any autofocus because of the adapter that I was using for my Sony camera. I constantly had to stay updated on two different menu systems, Sony and Canon. It was a nightmare to color match because while I did have a Sony a7S II as my A cam, I had Canon cameras as my B and C cams. So always just having to sit there and match colors was a nightmare. In short, my system over the past 5 years has been very messy and unnecessarily difficult. So over the summer, as the Canon R7 was announced and released, I had made the decision that I'm going all in on Canon. I was gonna get an R6 as my main cam and get a couple R7s as a B and C cam. I already have the lenses for it, and even getting an R-mount camera. The adapters that Canon has supports autofocus for their EF lenses, which would allow me to keep using them until I could upgrade to RF glass. That was a huge deal for me because that is something that I've suffered and had lack of for the last 5 years, and I'm just frankly over it. So I had planned on doing this entire gear overhaul at the end of the year so that I could finish out all the weddings and gigs that I had booked with a system, while completely chaotic, was one that I knew very well. But then at the beginning of November, Canon announced their R6 Mark II. And after watching a bunch of initial reviews from people who had it prior to the release date and seeing how it addressed a lot of the issues that the original R6 had, I really started looking into getting that as my main camera. And one of the main issues that people seemed to be really happy about was Canon fixing the overheating issue that was with the original R6. And people complain about a couple other different quirks and things like that with the R6 Mark II. But honestly, anything was gonna be an upgrade over what I had. So with all of that, I made the decision to wait for the R6 Mark II to come out, given that the R6 is almost 2 years old, and it would be nice to have something fresh from Canon's mirrorless line. So the day it came out, I went to Precision Camera here in Austin, Texas. I traded in my Sony a7S II and bought an R6 Mark II with a EF to RF adapter. And as soon as I got home, I pulled it all out of the box, put it together, threw a lens on, and such a breath of fresh air to experience autofocus. People have been benefiting from this for years, but I have never benefited from autofocus. I have not had autofocus for my main rig in over 5 years. It's just nice. It's so good. It's just really nice to see a very just spot on eye detection, face detection, autofocus system that I just don't have to worry about. It's just one less thing that I have to worry about when filming now, especially filming weddings when I need to track subjects that are moving and it's just constantly locking on the face and it does everything that I need it to do. I'm super excited about this. I'm super excited to have this feature, even though it's nothing new, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it is for me. I haven't had a chance to use this camera on a wedding day, but I am excited to do so. Not having to use manual focus throughout an entire wedding day, set my focus from a certain distance and just stay that certain distance away from my subject, and really just taking that piece off my mind and focusing on being creative in the moment. Very excited about that potential. Very excited about this new opportunity for me specifically, because like I said, it's not anything new, but it's new to me, and I'm freaking excited about it. Now, I did have a chance a couple weeks ago to use this camera as a second shooter for photography at a wedding, and my gosh, if this is any indication of how the autofocus future is for me, then future's looking fantastic. It honestly did not take long for me to overcome my previous way of shooting. I had a Canon 5D Mark IV, and I would set my focus points, I would grab my focus, and then frame up my shot. Now, like with this face detect and eye detect, like it's another, like one less thing that I have to worry about. I can just focus on framing, I can focus on the good, and just know that the camera is gonna be in focus. I was blown away by all the shots that I got, and then also just the multiple frames per second that I get. I think it's like up to 40 on the electronic shutter. I think it's still only 12 on the mechanical, but that was another thing. I'd never experienced a silent shutter before, and when we got to the ceremony inside the church, I turned it to silent shooting, and I had to go back through my photos and make sure that I was still shooting, because I didn't hear it at all, and I'm like, wait, is my camera actually shooting? Am I actually capturing? And yeah, I'm like capturing like a number of photos, all in focus, all fantastic. I'm excited to use this camera to shoot a wedding film that I have upcoming. At that point, I will have my R7s in place. I'll be able to match all the cameras across two R7s and an R6 Mark II, all shooting in C-Log3. I'm really excited at the potential to just focus on being creative and not have to worry about a system that was so chaotic and so unnecessarily difficult to work with over the past 5 years. I was just in dire need of an upgrade, and it's finally happening, and I'm excited for the future now. Chances are over the course of the next year or so, I'll find things that make me upset about it, or things that aren't specifically everything that I'm looking for. But for real, to go from the system that I had to something like this is a huge leap. I have not been able to experience a new camera's full potential in the last 5 years. So anyway, that's it. That's my experience with it for the last couple weeks. Like I said, haven't had a whole lot of time to spend with it. Haven't had a whole lot of scenarios where I've been able to test like the full range of everything, and also edit a bunch of C-Log3 footage. I've only edited very little, but what I have seen, I've loved. But that's it, that's all I've got. Just in summary, I am excited to use a great hybrid camera for photo and video as a wedding photographer and videographer, being able to use the Canon R6 Mark II, and having, even though I do not have native lenses, I do not have RF lenses for this, I have an adapter for my EF glass, and I have not seen any issue with the autofocus so far in photo or video yet. So we'll see how that turns out over the next year or so. See you guys, bye.